Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have not one, but two reviews to go through. The reason I'm doing a double review today instead of just a single one is because both of the books I'm reviewing are very short, and thus don't really take up the length of a single video. But I wanted to discuss both of these books because I highly enjoyed both of them and wanted to give some brief thoughts on them. The two books I will be discussing today are Star Wars The High Republic Edge of Balance, a manga, and Brandon Sanderson's The Emperor's Soul, which is a novella. The first book I'll discuss is The Edge of Balance. Edge of Balance is the first ever original Star Wars manga that I'm aware of. I have seen many manga for Star Wars that are adaptations of movies or adaptations of novels. I have not seen just original Star Wars manga, and this is the first one that I've seen. And this, of course, is part of that whole High Republic continuity that's happening right now. It is part of the second wave of the first phase, which can kind of get a little bit confusing. But all you need to know is that this was released in September of 2021, and it's basically a short, quick read. It's about an hour-long read. It might take you a little bit longer than that, but I'd say most readers it'll take about an hour long. And it features this character named Lily Tora Asi, and she is a Jedi who is going to this planet, and I'm trying to remember how to pronounce the name of the planet, Branchi. Branchi is this planet where the Jedi have this little temple, and they are trying to help out the Branchians while at the same time study in the Jedi archives and learn, and they are beset by the Drengir, who are one of the villains in the High Republic books. And this book features Lily working with the other Jedi to stop the Drengir, and I personally loved this book because it was a good visual form for the Drengir. It was also just a sweet story. You learned about how they train for lightsabers, how they train in the Force. You learned some of their philosophy on killing evil creatures versus protecting others versus not killing non-evil creatures. There's also good discussions of how to handle civilian casualties and how to protect people. There's also some really horrifying things that the Drengir do in this book that most people will be able to handle, but they're still pretty scary. And this book it's black and white, the manga is, and it is an excellent way to get into reading manga if you've never done it before. As such as myself, I am looking to get into reading more manga, but so far I haven't really done so. So this was my entry. Most manga read right to left, so they start at this side and read right to left. This still reads left to right, and so as such, it still kind of reads like a comic, but you can tell the art style is very different from comics. It's only $15, so it's a lot of money for how short the book itself is, but I think that the story is worth it. The story is by Shima, Shinya, and Justina, Ireland, and the art is by Mizuki Sakagabira. I am sorry about the pronunciation, I just butchered that. Anyway, it is quite obvious from the way they formatted this that Justina Ireland was chosen to help write this because she has Star Wars knowledge and she's one of the architects of the High Republic. It is also obvious that they chose Shima Shinya because Shima has extensive knowledge of of manga and how to write that. And so they put the two together to make this. It's the first of a series. It appears that there's only going to be two because they've only announced the two, although there certainly could be more. This tells a complete story in that it does complete this portion of the story, but it's not entirely. It leaves a little bit of a cliffhanger at the end, but the whole Drengir plot is wrapped up in this book. And so this is a very fun book. It's a very quick read. And it just has some cool artwork inside, some images that I think are really going to last with me when I think about the Drengir. Now I know exactly what I'm looking for. I know they were in the High Republic comics from Marvel that Kevin Scott was writing, but I think this is a better representation of them personally. And it's got some great references to other High Republic projects and characters. There is one character who shows up right at the beginning, and if you've read other High Republic projects, you'll be like, ooh, I remember him. And so I would give An Edge of Balance probably about an 8 out of 10. It was a good read. It was a lot of fun to read. I wish there was more, but then again, that's how serialized projects work. You're always wanting to get more if it's really good. And so, I really enjoyed that. The next book I will be discussing today is called The Emperor's Soul, and this is by Brandon Sanderson. It's part of his Cosmere. And if you'll notice, I am trying to cover it up, but this was a library book that I read because it's kind of hard to find some of the copies of this. This is a novella set in the world of Elantris. Now, Elantris is Brandon Sanderson's debut novel that he wrote. It is this particular book. It is my favorite novel of all time. It is an amazing book. I'm not here to talk about it, but it's set in this universe and this world particularly. But you don't have to have read Elantris because The Emperor's Soul takes place in a different part of the world, and it doesn't really reference the world part of Elantris. There are a few offhanded references to Fjordell and to some of the other kingdoms. And so, but really those are offhanded, and so you don't need to have read that book at all. You could go into this as your first ever Brandon Sanderson project, and you'd be happy with it. And this book basically tells about this girl who has this gift that she uses for forgery, and she basically gets caught by the government because forgery is illegal, but they decide that they need her to forge the Emperor's soul in order to essentially keep a version of him alive, to keep these people in power. And she only has 100 days to do it. So the chapters are the titles. Instead of having chapter 1, it's day 1. And you're following the different days as she's working on her forgery. And I loved this because it does so much world building in this one little book. It discusses a lot about the magic system. It discusses a lot about the characters and the universe. And it also is it makes you feel bad for the people involved. And one of the things that's so great about this book that is just quintessential Brandon Sanderson is it goes very deep into deeper themes utilizing the magic system. And I believe, and I haven't heard this from Sanderson himself, but I would not be surprised to hear that this is the case, that this book almost seems like it is an allegory for the way that he took over and had to write The End of the Wheel of Time. He had to write something for Robert Jordan's universe that wasn't his own, and he had to make it as close to Robert Jordan as possible, but he couldn't get actually Robert Jordan's work because Robert Jordan died before The Wheel of Time ended. And so this feels like the forgery aspect was an allegory for that, and it just really makes this a deeper theme, and it makes you question, okay, how long should we keep people alive if they're sick? Should we continue to try to help them and get better? Or at one point do we say, no, this is too far, we can't do this? And so this is an excellent novella. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. There are a few things I didn't care for with it, but as a whole, this is one of my, if not my favorite novella I've read this year, and it is by my favorite author, Brandon Sanderson, and I just thought he did a terrific job with it. So those are my two reviews, Star Wars Edge of Balance and The Emperor's Soul, both great books. This one I think is one of the best books of the year. This book is also very good, and so I recommend both of them to readers of the genres that they're in. If you liked this video, please share it to your friends and subscribe to the channel. Comment if you read either of these, if you're interested, what you think, what other books you think I should be reading. Let me know if you liked the review, if you have tips or suggestions for me. I will be happy to take those. But until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.